my confidence was shot and I started thinking, maybe this isn't a good idea. And I was just not sure if I really wanted to do this. It was realizing, and I knew it from my sport, but applying it to life beyond sport too, that, you have to make mistakes.
Welcome back to the NatWest Business Show. I'm your host, Angellica Bell, and I'm really excited to say we've been joined by the legend, Sir Chris Hoy, today. Now, with a total of 7 Olympic medals, 6 of those being gold, Chris is one of the most successful British Olympic cyclists of all time and a pioneer in the transformation of the sport. Now, after he retired in 2013, he went on to launch his own range of bikes, invest in new sport tech ventures, and even publish a range of children's books. Now, with this endless list of accomplishments, it's really, really good for us to hear how he made that transition from the sporting world to the business world. So welcome, Sir Chris.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Now, we start things off with our guests with an exclusive confession, okay? Maybe a moment of failure that shaped their lives, or even a business blunder that taught them an invaluable lesson. So with that said, please share something with us, your confession.
Well, it's actually quite a public one that I think a lot of people might have seen. I took up motorsport as a hobby at the end of my cycling career. Never thought it would go anywhere. Did a season of racing at sort of novice level. Mm-hmm. And then Nissan were coming on board as an Olympic partner for Rio in 2016. And they approached me and asked me to be, if I could get involved in that venture and do some mentoring of their athletes and help promote that partnership. And I was like, well, I'm doing a bit of motorsport. I don't really want to stop doing that. And I'm guessing you wouldn't want me to drive in other people's cars, other manufacturers' cars. So they said, well, let's get you in one of our cars. Let's do a test, see if you have any potential. And we can maybe get you racing in our cars. So I did a test, and they said, we think we can get you to Le Mans to do the 24-hour race by 2016, which was like a massive thing for me. It was a massive, I was a massive fan of motorsport. Le Mans is like the pinnacle for amateur racing because you get to race alongside the professionals. So this was my new target. And next year, the 2014, I went out and started racing sort of semi-professionally. And at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, there's a very famous hill climb where, all the best cars and the best drivers in the world, they go up the hill on the estate. And I had a brand new car. It was one of only 2 in the country. It was going to be Andy Palmer, who was the CEO of Nissan. It was going to be his personal car. And I drove it up the hill and just went a little bit too hard. Went off. And if you know Goodwood Hill Climb, there is no runoff. There's no gravel traps. There's no room for error at all. And as very much a novice, I went straight off through these 5 rows of hay bales, completely destroyed the car in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And I was absolutely devastated. I was so embarrassed. I felt like such an idiot. I didn't want people to think that I had not taken it seriously or I was just being reckless. I was doing the best I could, but it was all new to me. And I got out of the car and...
So what you feel when you get out of the car, all these people there, because it is packed, it's a huge event.
Massive event. So the first thing, I just wanted to sit there. I didn't want to get out of the car. And I thought, I'll wait here until everyone's gone home. I can wait. I was so embarrassed. And so eventually I sort of dragged the car. It was a road car. So all the airbags went off and I got helped out by the paramedics. I was fine, like literally not a scratch on me. And I had to get checked by the medics, and I made this a long walk back to the drivers' club. And as I was heading back to the drivers' club, I could see Andy Palmer walking towards me, and I was ready for it. I didn't know what he was going to say to me. I was so sorry. I was so upset. And he said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine." He said, "Well, that's all that matters." He said, "We can replace cars. We can't replace people." And he said, "And on the positive side, we've had huge publicity. It's great. We've shown the car is safe. We've shown, it's got so much extra attention. And if you're fine, then we're fine." So he was amazing.
Which is true, because ultimately it is about your safety and your health. But I guess, were you thinking maybe you should put more time into it? Or
I was just embarrassed because I thought that people would think that I hadn't, that I wasn't taking it seriously, and I'd just gone in like an idiot and overshot it and crashed his car and didn't care. But I did care. The reason that I'd gone off was because I was determined to do a good job. So I was trying so hard, but my confidence was shot, and I started thinking, maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe motorsport was, the wrong choice for me. I made the mistake of looking online at a lot of the comments on Twitter, on social media, which is,
a no-no.
You should never do. I mean,
Never.
Once you learn from it, you don't go back there. But people were like, "What on earth is he doing? What they'll do in letting him drive this car?" So my confidence was low. I had a race the following week in Spa in Belgium, one of the most challenging tracks in the world. And I was just not sure if I really wanted to do this. And I arrived at Spa. It was raining. I got minimal practice before the race. Racing a sort of 2-driver team where you have a pro and an amateur. And Wolfgang Wright was my teammate. And long story short, we had an amazing weekend. I got my confidence back and I got my first ever podium. I came second.
Oh, brilliant.
And got onto the podium with this trophy. And I guess it was realizing, and I knew it from my sport, but applying it to life beyond sport too, that you have to make mistakes. You have to make, you can have big blunders, and they can often be very public ones, but you have to accept they are going to happen. As long as you learn from them, and as long as you kind of use them in a positive way, then it's not the end of the world. But
and also it must be extra difficult for you because you are brilliant and you had this successful career, and then to try something else, expectations of other people as well sometimes can put pressure on you.
Yeah, there was definitely extra attention. I wasn't just a normal novice driver making the steps up the ladder. It was very much in the public eye. I think a lot of people were interested, and some people might have been hoping that it wouldn't be an immediate success. So there was that added pressure, but I think it was accepting that just because you're good at one thing, it doesn't mean that you're going to be good at anything else. And you can apply the logic and the principles and the process that you've used in your previous career, but you have to accept you're starting at the very bottom of a whole new ladder. So, it was a big shock, and I had to really look at the whole project and say, do I really want to do this? And the answer was yes, I still want to keep this going, but I have to accept that there are going to be mistakes, there are going to be failures. Some of them will be very public, and therefore people will have an opinion on it, but you have to grow a thick skin and get out there, and because you enjoy it, because you want to do it, just get stuck in and focus on that.
Well, we'll explore some of those sentiments you just mentioned as we go along, but as mentioned, your cycling career was hugely successful. It was off the scale, winning 6 Olympic gold medals, 11 world championships as well. Now, 2 of your gold medals were earned at the 2012 Olympics in London, shortly before you announced your retirement. And looking back, what stands out most for you during that period?
Oh, it's a big question. It was a magical time, and I think we knew at the time how special the home Olympics were going to be. But I think as the years go by and you reflect, you realise just it was a big moment for the country, I think, to host the Games and to do it so well and to show the rest of the world that we can put on an amazing show and celebrate all the things that we are known for as a country. And the question marks were there before. Would Britain win any medals? Would the transportation work? Would the weather be terrible? Were they going to finish all the facilities on time? All the negativity that surrounds a Games. I think it's not just linked to Britain. I think all countries have these moments of questions leading to a major event.
All eyes are on.
Yeah, exactly. And it was such a magical time. So for me, the standout moments, I remember, carrying the flag at the opening ceremony, a huge privilege to do that. I think about 4 days before the opening ceremony, I got called into Dave Brailford's office and said, I've got some exciting news for you. You've been voted by the athletes to carry the flag for the opening ceremony. Do you want to do it? Which seemed like a silly question at the time. Yeah. But we were in Newport, so we were at the final holding camp, and we weren't planning to go to London until after the opening ceremony. So it was going to be a change of plan, and we had everything planned out to the nth degree, and training and transportation, everything was already locked in. So we had to put in different plans into place. And I remember we were at Newport at this golf resort, and one of the guests at the hotel had a helicopter, as you do. And Dave had spoken to somebody and spoken to someone else, and they said, look, we've got a helicopter. We can take you straight into London, so you can finish your training for that day. We can pick you up, drop you in London. You can do the opening ceremony, and then it won't interrupt to your final training. So I did that, and it was magical. It was genuinely walking out, leading the team, having voted, by your peers to carry the flag. And the noise as you walk into the stadium and you're carrying, you get all the briefing beforehand, when you carry it this way, and then when you get to the rail box, you do this, and, look this way and look that way. You forget it all. As soon as you walk in, as soon as David Bowie's Heroes starts playing and all the confetti cannons go off, and the crowd go wild, it goes out your head, and you just wave the flag like an idiot and have an amazing time. But that was such a high. And some people say, did that add pressure, being the flag bearer? But I remember thinking at the time, it's been worth it. The 4 years of hard work to make it to these games, and the highs and lows along the way were worth it just for this one moment. So anything on top of this, if I win a gold medal or 2 gold medals, that's like the icing on the cake.
Okay.
So it took, I felt like I got something from the experience already. But yeah, I'd say carrying the flag.
But then okay, so that's the start.
Yeah.
And big deal. Then you go on to win the 2 medals. And then it finishes. And it's massive, any Olympics would be massive. And then you're going to retire. I mean, what are you feeling? This is it, your life, what we know you for.
Yeah, I knew that. So I didn't make any decisions prior to London in terms of my career, in terms of retirement, but I knew that it would be my last Olympics. So I wasn't sure if I was going to keep going for a year or two. I was hoping to go to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2014. So it wasn't like this was the end of the road.
So in your head, you knew this would be your last Olympics.
Yeah. So on the podium, I hadn't considered it, hadn't thought about it. It was all about, well, right here, right now, I've got to focus on the job at hand, but we'll deal with, we'll put plans into place for the future,
right,
as and when. But right now, focus on what you're doing. And you never think about, like, you contain all the emotion, you focus on logic, you try to focus on the process of what you need to do and not think about the end goal or the fear of failure or even what it might be like to win the race. But when you do, and, I remember stepping onto or being behind the podium and realizing this is it. This is my last Olympics. And it was the last event on the track. So all the teams had sort of gathered round the front of the podium. And, you could see the faces of, coaches from other teams. You could see your teammates. You could see family members in the crowd. It was just a sea of faces looking back at you. And before they even announced my name, I felt a lump in my throat and I started to get emotional because this was the end of the road. And I knew that I wouldn't be at the Olympics in Rio. I knew this was the end of my Olympic journey. But I remember the feeling in Sydney, my first Olympics, winning a silver medal, being absolutely blown away by this, thinking I've got an Olympic medal. Like, a silver was as good as gold for me at that point. But if you told me then that I would have 6 more gold medals on top of that silver, I couldn't believe that had happened to me and that I'd managed to achieve this, because I wasn't one of these kids you'd have picked out at a young age as a future potential champion. I was good, but I wasn't exceptional. So in my mind, Olympic champions were a different breed. They were born differently to the rest of us, and that wasn't going to be me. But here I was thinking, what a journey it's been, and to do it in front of, as we said, a home audience, a home crowd, it was the perfect ending.
Yeah. Well, you have referred to yourself as an enthusiastic amateur when you started out in cycling.
Yeah, I think we look at our sporting heroes or business heroes or people who achieve and we aspire to be like, and you look at them and you assume that they have always been that way. They were, on this linear trajectory from day one. They, from age 10, if you're not the best in your team or your city or your country or whatever, you're not going to be the best in the world in 10 years' time following that. But I don't think that's true. I think it's, improvement isn't a linear thing. We don't necessarily all set off in the same gradient of improvement. And to me, talent is massively overrated. I think to me, it's about resilience. It's about hard work. It's about bouncing back from and learning from mistakes and doing all you can to enjoy the process. You have to be enthusiastic. You have to care about it. You have to really want to do it. And we all start as amateurs. So, yeah, it definitely was.
So what sort of approach did you put to your ventures that you took on after you retired then?
Well, you have to accept that you're starting at the very bottom of a different ladder, the first step of a whole new ladder. And I guess I applied a lot of although I might not have been an expert or even, a complete amateur, rank amateur in all these new things I was trying, but it was, first of all, looking at what are the people who were successful doing. When I was a kid doing BMX, I used to sit and watch the older riders. So I'd do my race, you'd race maybe 10 times throughout a weekend. After each race, I wouldn't just go back to the car or go and do something else. I would stay and watch the start gate, and I'd watch the older boys and the girls and see what they were doing and try and learn from them. So in business or in motorsport or, any TV punditry, whatever it is, I look at people who are the best in their field and try and work out how are they so successful? What are they doing that's different to me? How can I learn from their their success. And it can just be one or two little things, but if you can take away a little nugget of wisdom and apply it to yourself and practice it, then you will improve. And I think it's building a team around you as well when you start a whole new venture. Things that I used to do in my sport, in cycling, you get what Steve Peters, who was our psychologist, used to say, get your troop around you, get your people that you trust.
Yeah.
And you trust their opinion. So if they tell you, I think you're doing this wrong, or you should change this, then you go, okay, I'll take that on board and apply it. But if you have the noise, the chatter of the general public, like we mentioned, social media, then you can shut that out and say, I don't care what anyone else is saying. As long as the people who I trust are saying I'm doing the right thing, then I'll go with this.
Well, you founded Hoy Bikes, which was a natural transition for you at the time. What learnings did you take from setting up that new business?
Well, I think going back to the team, first of all, building a good team around you is really important, and finding people that because you don't know. I didn't know anything about running a business. Some would say I still don't just now, but I think it's about find people who know about that specific area. Go to the best, find out the best person you can go to, try and bring them into your team, show them that you're passionate about this and why that's why they want to be part of your team, because we want to get in this together and we want to make this a big success. So recognize your strengths and play to those strengths, but bring in people that you don't have a strength in that particular area. Be passionate about it as well. I think you've got to really care about, if you want to be successful, you've got to care about what you do. And it can't just be someone else's idea of you should do this now, or this is the conventional route. Well, this is what I should be following. Only if you really want to do it.
And also, so with Hoy Bikes as well, as a child, you rode bikes, so you would know what was good. You can bring your own experience, again, with your extra studies on the side.
Yeah.
You can bring all that to your team and to the product.
Yeah, so the product, for me, it was all about the product and about realising that particularly kids' bikes, traditionally, they weigh a ton. They have poor quality components. They are basically very cheaply made. And they might look great to a child's eyes. They go, that's the one I want because it's pink or it's blue or it's got, mag wheels or it's got a basket on the front. In reality, if you make a bike as light as possible with good components that the kids can safely stop and feel in control, that will help them learn much faster on the bike and give them more confidence. So, it's applying all these things. There were very few brands out there that were doing a good job sort of 10, 15 years ago. So we saw this opportunity of, let's create the lightest bikes in the market, the bikes with the best components, and realize that, they might cost a little bit more, but they will last longer and the child will have a better time with it. And if you extrapolate the weight of a normal kid's bike to an adult bike, and you try to pick up, the equivalent weight of bike for an adult, you'd be like, this weighs an absolute ton, I can't ride this. Yeah. But that's what kids do. They get, they have to ride these big lumps of metal that aren't helping them to get enthused about cycling. So if you can make them easier to ride, more fun, they enjoy it.
They'll continue doing it into their adult life. So you're investing in Skarper bikes now. Let's discuss that, but explain about it and why this venture is a little bit different.
So Skarper is a really exciting startup. It was a chap called Alistair Darwood, who is a doctor. He was still working full time as a doctor until very recently. And during the pandemic, he invented a new ventilator, an idea for one, which they rolled out for the NHS and was a big success. He was then on his holidays out mountain biking in the Alps, and he was walking up a hill, pushing his bike up a hill, and he was thinking there's got to be an easy, cheap way or an effective way to get a regular bike and turn it into an e-bike when I want to use it. And he was looking at the bike and he worked out, well, if we powered the rear disc, something could clip on that would drive the rear disc, you could make a regular bike into an e-bike. So he thought about it and he came up with this really simple but really ingenious way of putting a sort of cog set within a rear disc on a bike. Yeah. And I went and met Alistair and we had a chat, and it blew me away, because essentially what it is, it's a motor and a battery in one that you clip on to any bike, any disc brake bike, and it drives, once you've changed the rear disc, it drives the rear disc and turns your bike into an e-bike. But it's not like a conversion kit that once it's an e-bike, it's always an e-bike. You can take it off. It only weighs 3.5 kilos, so it's not, it doesn't make your bike a big heavy lump. And it's so simple. That's like all good ideas. Simple ideas tend to be the best. So yeah, I was blown away by it. And since then I've been working to try and finalize the design and optimize it from a cyclist perspective. And we're just bringing it to market now. So We've had a lot of investment in it, and it's just a really exciting time.
So watch this space.
Exactly.
Well, having reached the pinnacle of success in sports, I mean, was there more fear or excitement? Obviously, I can feel your excitement with this new product, which I'm going to look out for, because there's so many people who don't like e-bikes will just say it's cheating and stuff, but it gives you those options, which I love. What was it starting again? Was it excitement or fear or...
It was excitement because I'd done cycling. There was one thing for probably 20 years to the nth degree, really to the exclusion of, family life, friends, other, opportunities in life. It was cycling was the first choice. Even starting a family, I thought we didn't want to start a family until I was able to be at home and to commit and to being able to help and support and not just disappear for 2 months away for a training camp or whatever. So, I mean, that's a big thing to put on hold. So many things. And it wasn't, I didn't ever see it as a sacrifice because I was doing what I loved to do. But I realized that actually when this comes to an end, there is a whole world out there of exciting opportunities, things that you can get involved with. And as I say, starting a family, that was right at the top of the list. But, and that's why I didn't go in to do something else to the nth degree, one thing, and have a singular focus. I wanted to do a variety of things and just enjoy life and see and try lots of different things. So I was excited. It was, the days that I would be out training, I would go, out in the roads, do my training rides. You go past a beer garden and you see folk out in the sunshine having a beer and just like, I want to be over there.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So, I didn't drink alcohol
you don't really sort of understand that. Until you say that, those little small things that we take for granted, if you're not the pinnacle of fitness, but just to go and have a drink when you want.
Yeah,
or
full
just
commitment to what you're doing. And not that having a single beer 6 months before the Olympics would stop you winning a gold medal, but it was an example of, right, is this going to help me? Is it, I've got a training session tomorrow. Should I be at home, having my meal, resting up, go to the physio, get a massage, get to bed early, or go out with my friends for a single pint or 2 pints? That was the choice. And if it wasn't going to help me, or if it was going to hold me back, then the answer was no, I'll not do it. And therefore, what it meant was that you would have a period of time at the end of each season where you got to catch up with your good friends who waited for you. It wasn't like it was, you were missing out on certain nights, but those nights at the end of the season were special. You remembered them. Tough things were things like weddings or, big family moments where you would be in Australia and you weren't able to go to and they don't come back, have, a second chance at that. But the people that matter understand. So it's, it was nice to come to the end of that phase, not have any regrets of what I did, but understand that now life is opening up in front of you. It's an exciting time.
So that discipline, do you apply it to business?
I try to, I think it's what I try to do is whatever I'm doing. So my weeks are very different. I never have a normal week. There's no standard structured week that I follow like in the old days. But whatever I'm doing, I try to throw myself at it 100%. So I'll look at the day, I'll plan it ahead. And while I'm doing this right now, I'm not thinking about this afternoon's plan or what I'm doing tomorrow or what I did this morning. I'm here right now in the present, trying to focus on what I'm doing. And that, I think, is the key. It's being present and giving yourself 100% to what you're doing here and now.
Chris, I'm just going to interrupt the podcast with a little section we call Trending Takes.
Okay.
Just to give you a bit of a breather.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to pose a debatable statement to you based on a theme we've seen online. And I just want to hear your take on it.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
Just one here. A resilient mindset can overcome a lack of natural talent. I'm hoping you say that's true because it might apply to me.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. Yeah, resilience is something we talk about a lot these days, but for good reason, because it's such an important, no matter what you're doing in business, in sport, in life, we've got to be resilient because you're never going to go through life without setbacks.
And I think we underestimate how powerful this is.
I think resilience is a talent. So we always assume talent means that you can play a musical instrument very quickly, or you can learn how, you pick up a tennis racket and you immediately have a nice swing. Talent can be how you mentally cope with life in general, how you can adapt to, moving goalposts to a changing environment. So, I think I 100% believe that, certainly from my perspective, I wasn't one, I was good, but I wasn't exceptional as a kid. And I was one of the ones who learned how to bounce back from defeats and disappointments. I would always take responsibility as well, which I think it's very easy to blame other people or environmental situations. You see athletes, you see footballers, you see sports people losing a match or a race. They come and talk to the reporter immediately afterwards. They blame the referee, they blame the weather, they blame an injury, they blame anything but themselves and take responsibility. So I always used to look at athletes like Roger Federer, who would lose a match, and the first thing he would do, he would congratulate his opponent. He would talk about them. He would talk about how amazing it was to be here. He was disappointed, but he was going to come back stronger. And that was the key thing. He would never come away deflated. He would never make excuses, but he would always vow to come back a better man next time.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube and want to get involved with our trending take, put all your comments below. Well, your little break's over now.
I was going to give you a little factoid, actually, while
Go
we're
on.
here. I was doing my research this morning. Did you know that we were born within 24 hours of each other?
No.
I mean, you would never believe it looking at us. I mean, one of us is not weathered quite as well as the other, but 24th of March. Is that right? Yeah, 23rd of March.
Oh.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible?
That is incredible. And that gives me hope, because I'm hoping that with all this positivity you're giving me, I'm one day going to conquer my cleats.
Well, I don't want to deflate you too much, but if you'd been born a day earlier, you would have been part of the 23rd of March club. Do you know what that is?
No.
Mo Farah, Steve Redgrave, Jason Kenny, myself, Roger Bannister.
Yeah.
I think there's about 22 Olympic gold medals from Britain alone on the 23rd. People born the 23rd of March.
Please, can I just join the club? Just...
Well, you could be an honorary member.
Can I be an honorary member?
Yeah, why not?
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that you did a bit of research. I'm like literally going, oh my goodness, what's she going to say
What's
about
he
me?
gonna say?
Back to you. Chris, what methods have you used in your sporting career that helped you with your ventures post-retirement?
I think post-retirement, the biggest things that I've applied is learning to deal with change. I think learning to deal with accepting that change will happen. You can't prevent change from happening, but it's how you react to it, and recognizing that there's opportunity in change. So the goalposts do move. It can be last second, short-term warning, or it can be some months or years in advance. And if you first of all, you've got to reset your goals. You've got to then put a new plan into place, and you've got to keep that or build that team around you, which might be different from prior to the change. But it's recognizing that change shouldn't be feared, and that it's the one constant that we have.
Was it easy for you to adjust with that? Because obviously, as a sportsman, you like things ordered.
Predicted, and yeah, I didn't like variables, so I always tried to minimize variables and be prepared and try to understand that you cannot control everything, but the things that are within your control, you want them to be very much within your control. So I guess it's a bit like turning up to an exam prepared. You've done your revision, you're ready for the exam. I always want to turn up to the race knowing that there was nothing more I could have done within my powers to be ready for that day. And then you can't guarantee you're going to win, but what you can guarantee is you're going to give your best. And if your rival could just be better than you on the day. So if you've done your best and you come second, you shake their hand, accept the better person won on the day, that's fine. But if you went back and thought, as an example, like the chat earlier on, I'd gone out for that stag do, a month ago or 6 weeks ago. If I hadn't gone on that weekend with my friends, I wonder, would that have how would I have panned out in this race?
Yeah.
And then you live the rest of your life wondering and regret. So the aim was not to have any regrets. And I try to bring that across to whatever I do. It's not quite as intense and focused as the old days, but I try to use that philosophy of when there's change coming, accept it. And it can often be, in a strange way, change that you wouldn't have wanted, that you at the time is scary, can often be the best thing that ever happens to you. I had to change events after Athens in 2004. So I'd won the gold medal. I was on top of the world. I'd become Olympic champion, achieved my lifelong dream. And then within a year, that event was dropped from the Olympic program in Beijing.
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
I was 29, 30. And the choice was, do I retire or do I try and adapt and change to a new event? And
Were you worried that you wouldn't be able to?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was fortuitous. It was only because the London Olympics were announced, or they won the bid about a week after I'd been given this dreadful news that my event was dropped. London got the nod for 2012, which wasn't expected. If you remember, Paris was the favourite for that. And that was 7 years away. That was 2005. And I remember just thinking, I'll never make it to London. I'll be 36, but I can't not try. I can't at least, I've got to give it a go and see if I can make it. So that was enough of a long-term carrot dangling on the horizon. I thought, right, I've got to give this a go. So I'm going to change events. I'm going to try the sprint, individual sprint, and the Keirin, as well as doing the team sprint. And I'm going to hedge my bets and do those 2 events and then see which one I'm best at and focus on that and then hopefully make it to the team for Beijing. Never thought I would make, because they were very different events. They were very tactical and very technical. The event I did before was very one-dimensional. You're on your own. It was against the clock. It was a set distance. Very, very predictable, which is what I liked. And then the Keirin and the sprint were very unpredictable. So I made the change. And yeah, long story short, it went better than I could have possibly hoped. I went on to win 3 gold medals in Beijing. And the moral of the story was, well, if I hadn't been forced to make that change, I would never have chosen to finish off with the previous event, take up the new ones. But in the end, I won 3 gold medals instead of 1. So.
And my intro would have been very different.
Yeah, exactly. He's only a 4-time Olympic gold medalist. Yeah. You wouldn't even invite me on.
No.
Meager 4 gold medals. Yeah.
That's
yeah. So
interesting.
It is. It's funny. You crack on and you focus, but when you step back and look back and reflect about how we got to this point, it's because of something that was a phone call being told that your event has been dropped was absolutely devastating. So to be able to recognise that change, as scary as it can be at times, it doesn't have to be the end of the line. If you can adapt and take a breath, bounce back from it and say, right, this is the reality. It's not going to change. There's no point in shouting and screaming and stamping your feet. This is what's going to happen, and how are we going to make this the best possible scenario?
Well, let's talk about another one of your ventures, because you wrote a series of children's books, Flying Fergus, which I have. I've read some of them.
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
I've still got, my little ones still have them.
Oh, wow.
And I think one of the things you wanted to do behind that was just inspire a younger generation of cyclists.
Yeah, and kids to read as well.
Yeah.
So when I was young, my sister was really into reading, and she loved books everywhere, and always had her nose in a book. And I struggled to kind of stick with it. I didn't have the attention span to keep reading, and yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. And then I found Roald Dahl, and I read, I think it was James and the Giant Peach, I think was the first one I read.
Good book.
And I read it from cover to cover. And then I wanted to read another one, so I found out, he's the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and so on and so on. And once I found an author whose stories and style that I enjoyed, I was hooked.
And piqued your interest, yeah.
Exactly. So I thought, well, if you can get a subject matter that is engaging and the child is interested in a style of writing, then hopefully you can get them to read. But also at the end of it, the aim was, as you say, to get them out on their bikes and have fun creating their own adventures on 2 wheels. So it was something I never even considered until post-retirement. And again, you come in as a complete amateur, and it's quite scary, and you've got to go to people who have expertise and ask for their advice and their help. But I love doing it. And now, it's amazing. I've got, my kids are 6 and 9 years old, and neither are that interested in the books. But it's normally their classmates will come and sort of go, they don't care about gold medals and all that nonsense. It's like, this is Chris, he writes the Flying Fergus books. They're like, oh, wow. And it's lovely. And the aim was to encourage them to ride their bikes, but also try and get in there a few themes and a few morals and a few story, just talking about resilience, talking about making the most of what you've got, bouncing back from defeat, the fact that we're not all born winners, that not everybody starts out on the front foot. So trying to subtly bring these stories, these themes into the stories, and in an enjoyable way, hopefully. But it was such an exciting thing to do. We wrote 2 to start off with, thinking that would be it, and ended up doing 10. So yeah, it was a great fun project to be part of.
So what advice would you give to another sports person looking into different ventures and channeling their passions after they finish competing? Because you've been really blessed, because everything you've done is because you've got a passion, or there's a link, and you've expanded on it, or seen something that was missing in your life that you want to put back out there.
Well, you're right there. The key thing is passion. I think you've got to be passionate about it. So first of all, I would say, don't wait until you've retired before you start putting plans into place. So a lot of athletes will finish and then go, what now? And then that's a really difficult time. Like, it's really difficult because, and I don't think it's discussed that much, but you imagine that you've got an athlete who could be doing a sport like gymnastics or swimming, basically from the age of being a child through to the end of their sporting retirement. That's all they've done. And they've always had somebody telling them where to be, what to do, turn up wearing this, today we're doing this session, eat now, rest now, and then you retire. And you're like, off you go, and sort of released into the wild. And it's like, well, what am I going to do?
So there's a void. Then
there's a massive void, and you have lots of people have mental health problems at that point. It's until that point, you identify your whole identity is based on what you do. So I remember flying to somewhere in South America. I think I was going to Miami, and I got into the US Customs in Miami, and you fill out the immigration form, and occupation. And for 20 or 15 years, I'd written cyclist, professional cyclist, as my occupation. And this was like 2013 or 2014. I just remember thinking, what do I put down here? And you have this moment of existential crisis, trying to, with a cue behind you, what am I going to write down? So it's been part of your identity. You're no longer a professional athlete. You have to have some sort of plan in advance so that when the time comes, there's no panic, there's no what next. You have, right, I'm ready to push the button on this next venture. You have all the plans in place. And also it gives you a bit of reassurance before you retire. There's not a feeling of I have to keep going because there's nothing else, there's no safety net, there's nothing else to do when I finish this. This is all I know. And you often see athletes going way beyond their kind of useful lifespan as an athlete, and their form drops off until eventually they get dropped from the team or they get injured or whatever. And it's quite a sad way to go out. You want to go out on your terms if you can. So it's
mentally preparing yourself.
Yes.
So that you're not fearful.
Yes, it's understanding that there's another excitement. It's not the end, and that's the end of all the excitement in your life. There's a whole world outside there to look forward to. But find your passion. Work out what it is that you enjoy, because you work harder at things that you're passionate about. Find out what you're interested in, and get the team around you. Get people to help you with things. If you don't know how to do it, then speak to people that have done it before.
And ask.
Exactly. And you'll be amazed at how many people are, if you're enthusiastic, how many people want to be part of that journey with you and get involved and join in. So I would say don't worry about your future, because you've shown that you can apply yourself. You've shown you can dedicate yourself to something. You might think you only have the skills as a tennis player, swimmer, cyclist, whatever. But you'd be surprised at how transferable a lot of these skills can be.
Well, Chris, we've talked today about winning gold medals. Not in my case. Having business interests like Skarper, and your contributions to the younger generation of cyclists. Now, with all these things, how do you want people to feel when they hear the name Sir Chris Hoy?
Oh, that's a big question, really. Well, it's hard because I guess what you're asking is what would you like to be remembered for?
Yeah, and your legacy.
It's difficult because what we try to tell ourselves, we're always told it's important to not worry about what people think about you, because you can get drawn into trying to please people and not, basically you can't control what people think about you, and therefore you shouldn't be worrying about that. The people around you, of course, that's not true. You want the people around you, you should care about what they think, but the close people. But I don't know. It's a difficult question. I hope people would think that I'm a
inspiration,
positive person. A genuine person. I would love to think that I was an inspiration to anybody to take up cycling or to
well,
just.
You are, because I learnt to ride a bike as an adult, and
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, good for you.
And you were one of the people that and also that's one of the reasons why I read the book as well. Your children's book, because
Oh, amazing.
And I fell off the bike loads of times. I was I was terrible. But it's people like you where you just think, actually, because it's like you're a friend to everyone.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And so you are. So
well, thank you,
if you ever
Angellica.
doubted that, I don't know why.
Oh.
No, seriously.
Well, thank you. It's I don't know. I think it's I'd love to looking back, what would be remembered for. I think to have been part of that 2012 alumni, London. That London was so special, and it's you only really appreciate it with a bit of distance and reflecting. But what a time it was, and everything came together. It was perfect from the moment. The first 5 minutes of the opening ceremony, Danny Boyle's opening ceremony, and we sat back and went, "Wow, I think this is going to be pretty special." So to be part of that, and also I don't know, hopefully raising a couple of nice people. You're trying to be contribute to the society and the world with your family, with your kids, and hope that you can raise kids in a way that they are happy and balanced and content, and they can go on and sort of carry on carry that torch for you.
Yeah, no, exactly. Or maybe someone who maybe didn't feel that they were the best, but went on to achieve so much.
Yeah. Well, I think, try not to compare yourself. I mean, I know we're going off a bit of a tangent here, but one of the things that I try to say, and certainly through the books I've written, I wrote another book called Be Amazing for slightly older kids, 9 to 12, about trying to help them get the best out of themselves, to follow their dreams, to realise they can achieve great things, even no matter what they think of themselves right now. They can go on to achieve massive things. And one of the biggest themes of that is comparison. Comparison being the thief of joy. It's don't worry about what everyone else is doing. You can gain inspiration from other people. You can use them to give you, ideas. But actually, the only person you've got to beat is yourself yesterday. Just be better than you were yesterday, and not in every single way, but to try and find little ways to do a better job today than you did yesterday. And if you do that all the time, then you'll improve by definition. And it takes the pressure off comparison in everything in life, because that's how, it is the thief of joy. It does take away the fun from everything. If you look at what other people are doing, and it's always better, they're always doing a better job than you, they're having more fun. In reality, they probably aren't. Yeah. It's just your perception.
Well, before we end, can we do some rapid fire questions?
I'd love to, yes.
All right. And I do
On
allow...
what day was Angellica? Was she born? Yeah.
You know that one.
We do.
Now, I do allow a little bit of time in between each one.
Okay.
Name a business inspiration.
Does it have to be a big, I suppose, do you know what, Apple, it's such a generic one. But what I love about Apple is the fact that the consumer is absolutely at the heart of everything. Everything they do, it excites you, and it makes you want to use the product. So that is always something that I've tried to bring to our bikes and all the things we do. It's got to be easy to use, and it's got to make the person want to use it.
Yeah, and a good tip for business owners as well. A sporting inspiration.
Loads of people. I could go on for hours. Graham O'Brien is the biggest one. Scottish cyclist, made his own bikes, literally made his bikes with his own two hands, invented a new riding position. He had no coach, no support, no money, living on the breadline, became world champion. They've made a film about his life called The Flying Scotsman, so go and watch it.
Best piece of business advice you've received?
Don't be afraid to ask.
Worst piece of business advice you've received?
Risk it all.
Oh. One thing you wish you knew about life post-retirement?
Yeah, I think how much fun you can have while still working hard. I always had fun in cycling, and I think the perception is that elite sport is just nose to the grindstone. You're having a hard time every single day. Yes, it's physically tough, but we had so much fun. And I think that you look out beyond that, and you can work hard in any field you're in, but you can still enjoy it and still have passion for it and still be enthused by it. It doesn't have to be misery all the time. Hard work can be fun too.
When you were cycling, obviously you'd have a routine, we'd have to get up early and stuff. Do you love a lion now? Well,
do you know what? I like people to think that I had this, I wasn't like an Olympic swimmer and training at 5 a.m. In cycling, we were at the gym at 9:30, 10.
What?
Yeah. So it was, because you raced...
What sort of sport is this?
Take up cycling, track cycling. That's what you want to do. You race in the evenings normally. The finals would always be in the evenings. So we would train sort of 2 till 5 p.m. on the track. We would do our gym sessions in the morning, and you would do your recovery rides. If you were in somewhere warm, you'd do it after the track, or you do... basically you didn't have to get up at the crack of dawn, which I'm terrible at. I know that you get up at 4 a.m. for radio presenting. Yeah. That I could, for many reasons, I could never be a radio presenter, but that is just one of them. Early starts are not for me.
See, if I train or go to the gym, I have to go at 6.
Really? Well, I'm impressed. I do like it. If I've got jet lag and you're up at 5 a.m. just because you're not through choice, I do like getting up and being able to train at that time in the morning and getting it out the way. When I say train, I mean just exercising these days. But yeah, I never did that when I was competing.
Okay, and what about this? Any advice you'd give to your younger self?
Don't compare yourself to others.
Yeah.
We've said it already, but I think that it's the surefire way to take the fun out of anything you're doing and demoralize you and feel like you're not making progress. If you compare yourself to others, it never ends well. Use others for inspiration, but compare yourself to yourself.
Amazing. What's the next thing you're doing after this chat?
I'm going to be going home. I only live half an hour away, and I'm actually picking up a car for tomorrow. I'm driving tomorrow at Donington, so I'm getting my car sorted for that. So yeah, it's an exciting one this afternoon. Ooh. And I'm also preparing. I've got a speech next week, so a keynote speech I'm doing. So I've got to go and write that and get that prepared. So busy. And then pick the kids up from school. So yeah,
love it. Keeping it real.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for all your insight
Angellica.
and talking to us today. It's been a real pleasure, and really interesting to hear about how you have made that transition and still want your businesses to do well and think about everything you do to make them successful, like your cycling career. And to our listeners, thank you so much. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe so you can find out about the latest episodes and also find out more about our fantastic guests. If today's episode has got you thinking about a potential career shift in business, head over to the NatWest website for tools and information to help take those next steps to success.